Formula One is considered as the royal class of motor racing with the finest automobile technology utilized in that racing category over decades. The development of a Formula One engine is not an easy process, as it should be capable of generating a huge power within a shorter time interval with higher reliability to provide the pace needed to compete in a racing category which always touches the speed limits above 350 kilometers per hour. Since its establishment in 1947, different engine configurations have been used in the different eras of F1 to power the Formula One Challengers. Now we are in the turbo hybrid era of F1, which uses 1.6 liters V6 hybrid engines that contain a complex kinetic and heat energy recovery system. But the sport came through different eras that used engine configurations like V12, V10, and V8, and each era has a package of strengths and weaknesses. Through this video, we are going to discuss about V12 engines, which are very famous among Formula One fans with their screaming noise. Before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. There is no specific era that mandated the use of V12 engines, and they had been in use since the 1950s. V12 engines totally disappeared after 1996 with the popularity of V10 engines in the mid-90s. However, the usage of V12s were not banned till 2000 by regulations. The oldest constructor in the current grid, Ferrari, is considered as the master of V12 engines, and it was the first and last team to use V12s in the sport. Normally, V12 engines were made with an engine capacity of around 3,500 ccc, and they were capable of generating a horsepower of around 560 to 850 horsepower. Ferrari Tipo 043 is considered as the most powerful V12 engine ever built in history, and it produced an 865 horsepower at 15,800 revolutions per minute. Even though Ferrari had the longest affair with these V12 machinery, several other constructors and engine suppliers also used this engine configuration to power their Formula One challengers. The Ferrari 125 used to compete in the 1950 season featured a 1.5-liter supercharged V12 engine. Sooner, Enzo Ferrari understood the advantage of using a bigger and naturally aspirated engine, and he ordered Ferrari engineers to develop such an engine. So, the development process was completed within the same year, targeting the 1951 season. Even though engineers planned to develop a 3.3-liter V12, it ended up as a 4.5-liter engine, reaching the maximum limit allowed by the regulation. This new engine helped the Ferrari pilots to win their first-ever championship Grand Prix by winning the race at Silverstone in 1951. In the same year, Italian engine manufacturer Osca also entered a race with its own V12 engine, and the Maserati F1 team also used the same engine to power the Thai racer, Prince Bira's car, too. However, regulation changes that happened within the next few years pushed the V12-powered cars to the back of the grid compared to the other engine varieties used in the same era. In 1956, Maserati built another high-capacity V12, which used to power its 250F. However, Maserati used the engine only in one race before their sudden withdrawal in 1957. In the early 1960s, regulations limited the engine size up to 1.5 liter, forcing many teams to move out of V12. But Honda supplied their customers with a glorious V12 for the 1964 season, creating interest towards V12 again. At that time, Ferrari, which was the leading inventor of Formula One V12, was also turned towards 8 cylinders, adjusting to the regulations. But with the confidence given by Honda about V12, Ferrari switched back to them with the Ferrari 1512 engine, which is referred as Flat-12. This engine was technically a V12 engine, but with a significant structural difference to an ordinary V12, as it has a different arrangement at the point where the pistons meet the crankshaft. Regulations were changed back to a 3-liter formula in 1966, and many teams wanted to jump back straight into V12 as the use of big engines was allowed again. Ferrari reintroduced regular V12 engines in place of flat V12 to power their F1 cars. Not only F1 cars, but also they powered their 312 sports cars using these V12 engines too. Honda also continued the use of V12 until its withdrawal in 1968. Taking an odd path, BRM tried to develop a 16-cylinder engine taking maximum advantage of the regulations. But sooner, they realized that there was no additional advantage of using 16 cylinders and switched back to 12-cylinder engines for the 1968 season. BRM continuously used them till their withdrawal from the sport in 1977. McLaren was also using V12 to power their Challengers in the 1967 and 1968 seasons. The new French team, Matra, joined the grid in 1968, also used V12 to power their Challengers in the debut season. But on a request made by Ken Tyrrell, Matra switched to the V8 Cosworth DFV. However, when they started building their own cars in 1970, switched to V12S again and used them till their withdrawal in 1972. However, the Matra V12 had a life beyond its manufacturers, powering the Shadow cars as well as Ligier cars till 1982 in an on-and-off basis. Actually, the 1970 era was much dominated by V8 Ford Cosworth DFV engines, as they proved to be more powerful, competitive, and more reliable than V12, and only a few teams wanted to take an alternative path against V8S. Biggest lover of V12, Ferrari team switched back to their flat V12 engines in 1970 and was not competitive enough to challenge the Ford-powered cars. Techno team also followed the footsteps of the Ferrari team and used flat V12 for its debut season in 1972, instead of taking an easy-of option like Ford DFV. That engine was also underpowered and unreliable, and the team disappeared from the grid one season later. Bernie Ecclestone thought to take an extra advantage for his Brabham team over the Ford-powered rival teams by using a different engine. So he used flat V12 developed by Alfa Romeo for the 1976 season, and it caused many problems that reduced the competitiveness of the Brabham Challenger. This engine was an unreliable, fuel-consuming one, and its wide configuration reduced the amount of underbody downforce of the car, too. As an immediate response to this failure, Alfa Romeo developed a regular V12 instead of this flat design to power the Brabham Challengers next season. But it didn't yield much success, and the Brabham team also switched to Ford DFVs. However, they were used till 1982 by the Alfa Romeo factory team and by the Osella team till 1984. Then the first turbo era of F1 arrived in 1985, and this was the first season in F1 without a V12 in the grid since 1963. But 4 years later, V12 made a return when the turbos were banned in 1988. Ferrari immediately switched back to their 3.5-liter 512 engines in 1989 without wasting a minute, and ran those engines for the next seasons. Lamborghini also manufactured V12 for midfield teams like La Rousse, Lotus, Minardi, and Ligier, without enjoying much success during the period between 1989 and 1993. In 1991, 3 more manufacturers, Porsche, Honda, and Yamaha, joined F1 as power unit suppliers, supplying V12 to the customer teams. Among them, Honda enjoyed the highest success by winning the 1991 title with McLaren Honda. That championship is in history books as the last championship won by V12-powered car in Formula One history. Renault proved that V10 engines provide a decent performance covering all weakness showed by V12 and V8, and Formula One management also promoted the use of V10. Ferrari was the last team to use a V12 engine, and after a decade-long affair with this engine variety, the Maranello-based also switched to V10ES in 1996. Even though the use of V12 was not banned till the 2000s, none of the teams want to use them again. In that way, the V12 era of F1 ended up enjoying some modest results within the 5 decades that they were used. What is your honest feeling about V12 engines? Are they overrated in Formula One history? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe the channel to get more exciting Formula One news. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.